Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews Saturday Conversation Show, an interview series where I talk to entertainment personalities, creators, and filmmakers about their work and love of film. Today's guest is James Kondelik, genre filmmaker who since 2010 has worked in film as an editor, producer, and director, including as one half of the Kondelik brothers alongside his twin brother John. James' latest film is a solo venture, Pitfall, a backwoods slasher movie in which a group of campers are hunted by a sadistic woodsman played by UFC legend Randy Couture. And for people out there right now, especially in the US, Pitfall is playing out there all around the region. You can go to pitfall-movie.com and you can go in there, you can join the pit, find out what's happening in your area, your territory, and if there isn't any screenings happening, demand them. I really recommend people check out this movie. I get a lot of horror movies sent my way, and I really enjoyed what Pitfall had in all of its facets, from its kills to its really great kind of like emotional underlying aspect to the film. It really brought a lot of dimension to not only to the characters of the victims, but to the killer himself. I thought it was a very kind of impressive way to do something different. You go in there thinking it's going to be one thing, you do get that stuff that you're looking for, but you get more as well. So I really recommend people check out Pitfall. So go to pitfall-movie.com and join me today to talk Pitfall and everything his career. James Kondelik. James, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And like I was saying before, Pitfall, I'm really impressed with this movie. So like I've came across the marketing of this on Instagram, and we're just talking off air about how much I really enjoyed the marketing aspect of this movie. I think it's a really kind of clever way to cut through all of the noise and try to get your movie out there. And I think it's been doing a really great job doing that. What I didn't
Thank you.
expect when watching this movie was the underlying kind of like psychological kind of aspect of the movie. Because a lot of what's going on in this movie, both for the victims, both for the killer, is a underlying sense of trauma for all of them. You see where they're all coming from. You're seeing what they're all dealing with, and I thought it was really kind of interesting way to kind of tackle this particular genre of horror movie. And give it new dimensions, give it something a little more heft, a little more kind of like weight behind it. So when the things do, hit the fan, so to speak, you can feel those stakes there as well. How important was it for you to make sure that part of the film, the more psychological aspects of it in regards to who these characters are, where they come from, and what they're doing, really was brought to the fore to make Pitfall the movie that it is?
No, I mean it's incredibly important for me to set out to. I mean, I love all kinds of horror films and slashers. I like all the great ones and I love all the bad ones. But for me, I really wanted to set out to make a film that you really cared about the characters and you understood what the characters were going through. And that way I felt like it would just be more powerful that when we start taking people out, maybe you feel a little bad about it and it's a little bit more devastating than just like, oh, Gary got killed. We don't care about Gary getting killed.
Yeah.
And it's a joke. And that's fine. Certainly there are some kills in this movie that we have some cannon fodder in this, but I tried to, even with some of the smaller characters, like I try to put in just enough in there for you to connect or like the characters and hope that they maybe live a little bit longer than some do. Um, so yeah, that was highly important for me. I think, looking at movies like Hills of Eyes or The Hitcher, or there's a lot of other movies that I grew up with in the '90s, where you really cared about the characters, including slashers from the late '90s and so on. But then combining it with like a survival thriller where you really, the person's put in this impossible situation and they're trying to escape, and you really want them to escape and not just perish. So yeah, that was a huge importance.
One movie that came to mind when I was watching it, and which I'm a big fan of, is First Blood. Because
Yep.
of the kind of aspects of being in the backwoods, and you have these villains really proficient with weaponry, booby traps and such. Because that character of John Rambo, he's just one kind of degree away from just snapping and turning into this like a monster, and he's got the skills and he's got the abilities to be kind of like what we see what Randy Couture being in this movie as well. Was that a film at all that kind of like was in a bit of an inspiration in regards to how he kind of lays out all of the different kind of mechanics of using the wilderness around him to kind of like snag his victims as he does in this movie.
No, that's very correct. I mean, there was a lot of, I mean, the original Inception was a little bit more psychological, but then the more we thought about it, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, really, this killer is kind of this evil John Rambo. Like, if Rambo just never fully recovered and he just ended up living off the land in the mountains in the forest, and just starts picking off people, one by one, and he's just now this sort of territorial animal. Yeah, that was very, very spot on. So yeah, thank you for catching that. Yeah,
The different
there was a lot of like, especially a lot of the traps and stuff is very John Rambo, or uh a lot of I was looking at a lot of traps and things from like Vietnam, from the Vietnam War, and so on, or just other hunting, bear traps, and pitfall traps, and things like that. I mean, obviously they're never this huge. This is a bit exaggerated, but
yeah.
I think it made it more sinister in this for sure.
The idea of a pitfall as well, I never heard of it before. Of course, I'm here from the suburbs of Sydney, why would I? But when did you first learn about a pitfall as kind of like this kind of like way for hunters to catch what I usually just like bear or other kind of like stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I must have seen it in another movie or something, like another survival thriller. Maybe it was The Edge or something.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure I've seen it in some other shows, or movies or something growing up, and knowing about, and then learning about them being used in Vietnam warfare and stuff like that. So, I was very fascinated by the use of just by creating this, very easy death trap. Um, but early in the early 2010s or so, when I was first, working or getting into film and everything as an editor, I really wanted to make a movie, make my first film. And this was one of the first things I had conceived, and I've been pitching like the idea around for quite a while, and I never got to make it up until recently. And
Hmm.
so it kept getting kicked around, and so on. But I guess the genesis was I was wanting to make a movie or write a movie that could easily get produced. And somebody recommended to me one time, like, you should probably look into doing a more like contained single location movie. And I'm like, okay, sure. And I, had this idea, and I'm like, well, what if it's just about this guy in a pit who's impaled, he's stuck, and he's trapped, and he's trying to get out, very much like 127 hours, or
Right.
Buried. And but I'm like, but those movies are really punishing and asking a lot of the audience. So I was like, well, screw that. Like, we'll on top of it, we'll have it be, have a little bit of like a slasher film as well. Like, there's a deranged hunter that's setting up these traps and stuff. So we'll cut back and forth between the guy trying to survive the elements, and trying to escape. Meanwhile, his friends are looking for him. So we kind of have our cake and eating it too. So
Hmm.
that's kind of where it came from.
This is the part of my discussion where I start talking about the origin story of yourself. Um, do you remember the first movie experience you had growing up? Was it VHS? Was it cinema? What was the movie or movies that kind of like that you remember really kind of like had kind of like, kind of see it into your brain? It's kind of like, oh, I remember watching this for the first time, this art form.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very vivid memory of, I think, like, one of the earliest memories I have being in the cinema, in the theaters, was probably seeing the first Jurassic Park when I was, oh God, I was really young. I was probably 3 or something, 3 years old or something rather. But aside from that, my dad and our family were big avid collectors of movies on VHS and stuff. So
Hmm.
certainly we saw a ton of movies on VHS. I think, getting, gifted Wizard of Oz, and seeing all these other monster movies and creature movies, and so on, at a young age, or seeing Tremors at a really young age. That was a big movie for our family. Um, yeah, that kind of shaped us. But I will say, I think I said it in another interview. A big part of it, really solidifying my love of horror, I think honestly, was watching Monster Vision on TV with Joe
Mm.
Bob Briggs hosting it. He now had the show Last Drive-In on Shutter, and So we kind of grew up watching, this late night cable um, channel, where this, TV show host would introduce all these like crazy, wacky horror movies, very, highbrow stuff and very lowbrow stuff.
Right.
But it kind of introduced us to all these, new stories, new movies that we thought at the time were very taboo and maybe forbidden to watch. And it just kind of like broadened my horizon and just opened everything up and like, oh, I didn't know you could make movies like this. So, ever since as a kid, we were very obsessed with anything horror monsters, even though we were deathly afraid of all of them.
Right.
You know, we were so intrigued on trying to make those kinds of movies. So, I think it started off very young.
Um, I remember when I was a kid too, it's always just been more kind of like it's one of those things kind of like you go to the top of the hill or you go to like the top of a staircase or maybe something really high, you kind of look over and you see how kind of like steep it is and you kind of look back and you kind
Yeah,
of just want to do it again, even though it's
yeah,
kind of scary. I found horror to be
yeah.
that way when I was a kid as well. Even though my first movie experience, I think, was Short Circuit at the
Mhm.
cinemas. I'm pretty sure see. I always get it mixed up. I don't know if it was Short Circuit or Crocodile Dundee Part Two because those are the first two. So I get them mixed up either one of them. But my first horror things I remember always being was always VHS.
Mhm.
VHS was a big thing, and I remember movies like Nightmare on Elm Street was kind of like a big thing because
Yeah,
Freddy was just such an iconic institution of the 80s in that time. And then as I get older, you get more into things like The Exorcist and things like that as well. But
yeah,
VHS was a huge thing for me as well. And even just like late night watching TV movies will show up. I remember one night there was Phantasm was on. I remember one night, it was like Texas Chainsaw, or whatever. And again, I remember one night on a very dark and stormy night, I turned on the TV and I was maybe around 19 years old. And it was the transformation scene from American Werewolf in London, which still is
yeah.
steered in my mind as the scariest movie moment I've ever had. But then again,
I
like you
think,
watch these things
yeah.
and you get scared of them, but you want more. There's a kind of an addiction to it. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, our folks would get upset that we would want to watch these movies so bad, and then when we did, we get so scared and hide behind the couch or run away or hide or whatever, and or would be riddled with nightmares or what have you. But we couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
Anything horror, we were so interested about. I checked out every monster book I could find as a kid in school. I can't believe we had monster books in school. But there were just so many things where it's like, oh, that's where I discovered John Carpenter. That's where I discovered, Evil Dead. That's actually we saw Army of Darkness first. I believe we saw the Evil Dead movies in reverse order, which was
Right.
very funny. But those became like some of my favorite movies and most like formative movies of my life, I would say, just because of how creative those all these movies were. Dealing with lighting, how you direct or shoot the scene, or how you're dealing with working with visual effects or makeup effects and whatnot. Just all of it is so elaborate and such like I had such an appreciation for, I guess, the craftsmanship behind everything with especially with these movies. I felt like dramatic films were so easy because
Mm.
it didn't have nearly as much um, thought put into, they weren't nearly as technical as some of these other, horror films. And I just thought like, well, this is going to be more exciting. I'm going to be glued to the screen watching this versus, a movie about, people talking about their feelings. But that said, I've grown up and becoming a person who loves, film and so on, and you really start to appreciate good performances and good drama. So we did include a bit of more character development and more depth and everything in this one, just to try to give everything a little bit more weight, but without shying away from all the good things and all the thrills of a really good horror film. Knowing that we were going up against way bigger movies than us. We were really trying to swing for the fences and try to make it as big and as exciting as possible.
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love.
So the one odd thing that people have often commended the film for is just how gory and violent the movie is, and oddly enough, like I don't think the movie's that violent or gory. Well, I mean it's violent, but it's not that gory, just simply because we didn't have that much money to spend on gore, and I was very um self-conscious about it, and I was nervous that, oh man, horror fans are just going to hate the kills. It's not We're not pushing it hard enough, and so on. But no, everybody seems to really love the kills. Everybody seems to really think that's one of the main highlights of the movie and everything. So that's great. It's so funny because it's like much like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that, where they think they're seeing a lot of blood and there just isn't a lot. And it's like, I promise you, look, like people are telling me it's really gory, and I'm like, it's not that gory. Like there's some burns and some wounds and stuff, but nothing that I thought was incredibly gory, like not to my standards anyway. So it's not Terrifier level. So I'm like, and I was really
Yes.
nervous that like, oh, they're just not people are just going to tear us apart if this was what it is. But thankfully, we've been lucky and great, very blessed that people seem to really enjoy the kills and gags and things that we have. So phew, I feel like we dodged a bullet there. But if we get a chance to do a sequel, we'll probably go more crazy and push the boundary a little bit further.
I always found it because the character that Randy's playing is a huntsman. It's an efficient glory. The kills are an efficient kind of way, and he doesn't like a hunter doesn't play with his kill. You know, this isn't,
Mhm.
like you're saying, like Art the Clown, where he likes to like fiddle around a little bit, a little too long. He's done his part and he's moving on to the next thing, right? So that's why I thought it was really well done about with Pitfall. But yes, of course, we are dealing with a guy who's going around with a bow and arrow and he's using an axe and he's using other methods as well. But what I really found really interesting about him is the psychological kind of aspects it brings to it. You're not going to have Michael Myers or Leatherface or whatever using the things that he does in the movie to kind of play with the people's minds as well. He has a
Yeah.
patience about him. But again, it goes back to the hunter's mind more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's very much a hunter in the sense of like, there's some kills that are bit quicker than others, but there's some that I think he's really kind of pushing them to see how far they can go, to
Mm,
see if they're going to fight back, or like in some scenarios he kind of gives them a chance to either escape or gives them a chance to fight back, and they either do or they don't. There's one scene in particular. There's like this turning point where it's a tent scene, if you know what I'm talking about.
hmm.
But there's a bit where one of them screams at him saying, I'm gonna fucking kill you," and
Yeah, he throws the
he just
axe. Yeah,
he just chucks the axe at them, and just throws his arms up of like, as in like, fucking do it, you
yeah,
know, and that's I love that image of the hunter, and I thought that was a little bit more interesting than just a slasher going around. I think he's kind of looking for an adversary, kind of a worthy adversary, or somebody like, make this hunt a little bit more thrilling, somebody who's going to give him a little bit more fight. So so yeah, I thought that was kind of fun. Some people are like, why isn't he just killing them? And I'm like, well, because he's trying to see what they're made of. I think he's
yeah,
trying to push to their breaking point. Again, I mean that probably stemmed from more of the Hitcher, where with Rutger Hauer, an amazing film. It's
yes,
terribly underrated. Nobody, like, I don't know enough people that really appreciate it. Like modern day contemporary people don't really understand just how great that movie is. Every time I show a new friend the Hitcher and Rutger Hauer's performance in that, they're just absolutely blown away. And the thing that I really liked in that movie is that, it's kind of a slasher, but it's kind of a thriller as well, because
yeah,
there it's a bit more psychological, and he keeps toying with this guy, as far as like toying with him in the sense of like, he's not just killing him. He's had many chances of where he could kill him, but he keeps pushing him, and to see, kind of how far can he push him before this guy fights back and, you know, shows him what he's made of. I kind of like that. And I think putting that into a survival thriller slasher film, I don't know. I just thought that was I thought that rang true. So hopefully people like that. And there's plenty more where that came from if they want more.
Okay, I like to move on to a game I like to play with my guests. It's called Choose Between Two. So the rules are in the title. I'm going to give you an option of two different things. You're going to choose one, expand on it on a little bit. Are you ready to play?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So the first one, The Evil Dead or The Hills Have Eyes.
Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna go Evil Dead. Uh, Purely because it's that franchise. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Uh, it's very formative for me. Um, I think I think Sam Raimi's sensibilities just really uh shaped me a bit. Probably the most. Like I love Wes Craven's Hills of Eyes, and even the remake of Hills of Eyes I really loved. Um, so yeah, that yeah, I gotta give it to Evil Dead though.
I also know you're a fan of the Coen brothers, so I'm going to do a little bit of a Coen brothers smackdown
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Blood Simple or Fargo?
I mean, no, it's got to be Fargo. I mean, Blood Simple is a perfect movie. It's a wonderful film, and but yeah, Fargo. You can't beat Fargo, unfortunately.
I watched Blood Simple for the first time this year. It took me
Oh,
forever to
really?
watch it. Yeah, so I've seen all
Oh
the all
man,
the other Coen Brothers stuff, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and for that to be a directorial debut film as well for the Coens as well,
it's
it
such
was
a
just fantastic.
yeah. Blood Simple is such a great little neo noir, and such a great little suspenseful um film, and it's only a couple characters, like what, four characters maybe in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And like it really should be studied. If it's not studied in film classes, it really ought to be studied, because I think it's a master class in directing and writing, and just pacing and building up suspense and tension and everything. It's such a great movie. It's not as quirky as their other movies and stuff, but
Mm.
it certainly is a really great one. But Fargo, I think, captures that same sort of um suspense and weird grit that Blood Simple has, but then they added all these like crazy characters in Fargo. So I think it introduced comedy and this very gritty uh crime thriller aspect to it. So yeah, Fargo takes it just by a hair.
Next one, the Battle of the hulking slasher brutes,
Mhm.
Leatherface or Jason?
You know, I'm gonna get shit for this. I haven't admittedly been the biggest fan of Jason Voorhees.
Me either.
I will watch, Friday 13th movies because they're really fun, and some of them are sillier than others. And I did really enjoy the remake. I wish they continued it because I really like that version of Jason, but I really love Leatherface. I think Leatherface has a little bit more personality, I think. And he's a bit of a craftsman. So I like that.
Yeah, Leatherface all the way for me as well. I haven't been a Friday the 13th Jason guy either. I don't know what it is. I just never really got into it like I have other horror slasher franchises. I like the Halloweens, I like the Nightmares.
Mhm.
Texas Chainsaw is a funny franchise because like there's like you have the first one which is just like the Mecca, the second one's like this really
Yeah.
odd sequel. And I like the remake they did, the Planet Dunes remake they did as well. I thought it was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
And
I
it'll
mean
be interested to see what Curry Barker does with it next as well. What he does with that character.
I'm very curious. Like I thought Obsession was pretty good. I didn't, never in a million years would I have guessed that they were going to give him the keys to Texas Chainsaw. So I'm like, I'm very curious to see what he does, and I'm very, very happy for him. But yeah, I would kill for that. That'd be amazing. I actually really liked Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, the Netflix film, the story wasn't very good, but the sequences and the kills and everything, I'm like, it's really good. And it was really like those sequences were really directed very well. And I don't think that gets enough love and attention because I think everybody just kind of poo-poos it because of everything else about it. But you know, I don't think that's neither here nor there. I don't think that's the director's fault, but I think what that director did do is bring us a really cool Leatherface and with some gnarly fun kills in that one that I really appreciated. I think the remake and even the prequel, the Platinum Dunes films, like you mentioned, were really, really freaking awesome and everything. But I really loved the original and the wacky second one. Those movies, man, just all of them. I love watching all of them. My wife can't handle it. She feels like she has to like just take a shower after watching it. You know, she feels really yucky.
They are pretty grimy, yeah. They are.
Yeah, it's tough. Like after a while, you're like, get me out of this world. But I think horror is supposed to do that sometimes. I think horror is supposed to be kind of revolting and upsetting and so on. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where the franchise goes.
Yeah. The next one, I think I might know the answer to this just looking at your hat, but I'm going to ask anyway. Physical media or streaming?
Yeah, it's always physical media. I have
Yeah.
thousands of movies. You know, I wish I had all my I wish I had a lot more of my old VHSs, but honestly, my wife, she's a big collector herself, so she has a ton of VHS tapes. In fact, on our first date, I think I came back to her place and we were drinking and I was going through her movies, just judging her. And she had a copy of Evil Dead 2 on
Oh,
VHS.
nice.
So like this is great. I can marry this girl.
It's meant to be. It's meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, Sam Raimi has put it in the stars for you.
Yes.
Last one. You're at the cinema, about to sit down. What's your favorite go-to snack? Popcorn or candy?
So I do both. I need something sweet and sour. I do Sour Patch Kids.
Hmm.
And popcorn. What's really fun is I pour the Sour Patch Kids in the popcorn, so you get a handful of salty, buttery popcorn and some sweet and sour candy at the same time. It's kind of fun. So that's I'm crazy like that. That's just insanity.
I've had all sorts of different concoctions to this answer. You know, people doing the classic like Maltesers one as well, or something like more the sour kind of stuff as well with the sweet. That I get that quite a bit. So no, not at all. It's a very common answer. Yeah,
And it's this weird balance. It's like, oh, I ate too much. I ate too many sweet things. I need something salty. I ate too much salty things. I need something sweet.
yeah.
So it's just this forever balance. But it's yeah, I have to have those two things in a soda at the theater. Otherwise, my theater experience is just completely thrown off.
So this is a chance for me to clarify something I read online, just going back about your kind of like origins as being a filmmaker. I read that when you were in high school, you had a friend who was making kind of like movies and short films, and he was the kind of one that kind of influenced you to kind of do the same thing. And then you
Yeah.
entered like short film programs and annual film festival programs, and you were more enamored with the filmmaking process in high school and doing your lessons and such. Is that pretty much on the
Yeah.
am I on the right wavelength here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very good. Yeah, no, that's very true. He actually just saw Pitfall the other day. He like caught one of the last showings of it this past week.
Mm.
And his name's Chad Sanday, and we went to high school together. And yeah, he came over sometime, and he was like saying, "Hey, can I show you my movies?" And like, you make movies? I did. It was completely, beyond me. I didn't know we could do that. And I've seen people do like little, shoot little things on their camcorders or whatever, but he had like tapes, like full on VHS tapes, like full of movies and stuff that he's filmed and shot and directed himself. And I was watching them and I was completely blown away because they were edited. There was music to it, and albeit it was, it was done when he was in middle school or grade school and whatnot, but and it was all very primitive. But I was just blown away. I had a million one questions, and it just kind of, broadened my horizons and just kind of opened the world up to me a little bit. And I was asking like, well, wait, how did you do this? How did you cut to this other shot? And how did you add music to it? Just all these things. And so I couldn't get enough of watching all of his movies and stuff. So I asked him, do you need help? Are you making another one? He's like, yeah, we're shooting another thing. I'm like, can I come over? Can I help? And so I went over to his place, and a bunch of friends were shooting this movie together, the script he wrote and stuff. And I found myself, I was supposed to be acting in the movie, and I'm not a very good actor. I'm a bit of a ham, but uh, I found myself like kind of making suggestions like, well, what if you got a shot over here? Well, what if you put the camera over here? Or what if we get an overhead shot looking down? Or what if we did a move? And I was just helping him try to improve his movie, but I quickly realized what I was doing was directing, and
Mm.
I realized like, oh, well, that's what this is. This is what I like to do. This is what I want to do, and it just sort of became um my North Star, so to speak. I think that's exactly what I set out to do. Uh, Joined a film program at my high school. They had a weekly morning show every Friday that the students would put together, and I joined that as well. And every year they had my high school had a film festival that I would shoot a short film, work on it all year, and then at the end of the year we would show it and have a big show, and people would come out and fill our theater up with people, and they would charge tickets and stuff, and they bring down this huge projector or this big screen and a projector and stuff, and they had a loudspeaker system. So it was really cool to just make something and put it in front of people and get their reactions and stuff. And of course, inevitably, I made a horror film, and I think it was just that was the end of it. It was like it was the beginning of the end for me as far as like, nope, this is what I love to do. I want to make more of this. But smash cut to 2011 when I was getting hired as an editor for the Asylum.
Mm.
You would think I was trying to get hired as a horror filmmaker, and for whatever reason, they never gave me the entire time I was there. They never gave me a horror film, despite me asking for it. So I don't understand why they never understood that. Love them. They gave me and my brother tons of opportunities, but yeah, it was strange. It was always like, here's a disaster movie, an airplane disaster movie, or here's an alien picture, here's a sci-fi picture or a shark movie or whatever.
Mm.
So we did all these other things. I love all these genres. I love all these types of movies growing up. So I'm like, sure, I'll make it, but my passion is making horror films and genre films. So yeah, so I'm glad I was able to come back and get my feet wet with um we did another movie before a few years back, like maybe 10 years ago now, called Behind the Walls, that did okay. Nobody really saw it, and it was made for like no money and so on, and just didn't do much business. It played around the world, it sold around the world, it did okay. It just was one of those things that like just nobody really saw it, nobody talked about it. So I was like, okay, well, that sucked. Um, so trying to get Pitfall made, it's been like maybe, gosh, 12, 14 years or something, trying to get that thing made. And it just took forever, tons of pitches, thousands of, talking to thousands of people, like doing your obligatory pitch and seeing who wants to read a script. I mean, trying to get anybody to read your script is incredibly difficult.
Mm.
You can make your pitch, doesn't mean they're going to read it. And even if they do read it, they're going to have to come back to you. They're going to have to talk to you, and you're going to have to figure it out if it's the right fit, if it's the right time. Do they have the money? Can they raise the money? Can they get cast? Can they get crew? Just all these things. And so thankfully, my producer on this Wai-Sun Chang at PandaPix, he came through, and again, I met him as an editor, and we were talking about another movie, and it wasn't working out, and he was like, I really want to work with you though, I really like your work. And I said, okay, well, what's your next film? And he said, I don't know yet. And I asked, are you looking for scripts? And he said yes. So I sent him like 10 scripts, and one of which was Pitfall, and he flagged that one and got back to me and said, hey, Pitfall sounds really interesting, tell us more about that. And
Mm.
he just had a lot more questions and things like, can you make it for this budget? Can you do it in this time? Da, 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 da. And yeah, you know, uh, couple years later, here we are. It's out, and yeah, it's crazy how quick it came together in the end, and it premiered at Screamfest last year in the fall, and here it is. It's getting it has its theatrical release across the country and so on, and then getting a VOD release at the end of June. So very, very grateful for him and the entire cast and crew. And it's been a dream.
During all this process, how does the Kondelik brothers as a filmmaking duo come together? Is John enamored with the same kind of process of filmmaking as you are as you're growing up? Are you kind of like saying to him, "Hey, check out what I'm making here with my friend," and he's like, "Oh wow, that seems pretty cool." Is that how that he comes along into the scene as well?
Kind of. I mean, at the time, I was making friends. I was making movies with my friend, and John thought my brother thought it was kind of lame, and was like, "What are you guys doing? This is dumb." But then
Mm.
he was seeing how much fun we were having with it, and then he had his own ideas, and so then he wanted to help out and participate, and we all, sort of bonded over that. And once I came out to LA and started working out here, he kind of just followed me. We're identical twins, so we lived together, and he just kind of followed me out and would just hang out with me when I was working, and he just kind of hung out around the asylum until they gave him a job because he was just there. It's like, well, you're here, you might as well do something, and so they gave him a job, and eventually, we started writing for them and directing for them, and I think John did I did direct this one solo, and John did help me out though a little bit. There was a week where he came out for to direct second unit for me because it was a really tight shoot. We shot this
Mm.
movie in about 18 days,
Right.
and we had a very giant, like, we had a huge crew, and I was very quick to realize, like, this is not going to happen if we are going at this pace, and so I convinced them. I said, like, let me fly my brother up, and I'm going to give him a handful of scenes that I just don't have time to shoot. They're going to be these smaller, lesser scenes and stuff, but I'll shoot a unit with the more complicated scenes and stuff, and we'll give them these little scenes, and we'll send them off with the cast there, and shoot those little pieces. So it kind of worked out that way, and it all kind of came together. We only had like a couple days of pickups, but it wasn't like full days. It was like maybe a couple inserts and stuff of couple traps, or a couple tight close-ups on somebody, like no real lines or anything because we weren't recording sound. So yeah, it was very impressive that we did it so quickly and everything. But yeah, I think I answered the question. Is about my brother. Yeah, I mean, we'd certainly started off together, and I think after doing a few movies, and we had our own business together for a while. I think he was just kind of bored with the business a little bit, and kind of beaten up by the business a little, and he still loves it and still misses it and still helps me out on we still write and everything here and there. It's just we haven't been making movies together as much as we used to. He's kind of been pursuing a whole career in comedy, honestly.
Yeah, that's right.
He's so he still misses it. He still talks to me about, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did this, or did that? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be really awesome. So I think there's a couple action comedies that we really want to write and everything. It's just trying to find the time to sit down and write those out, because there's a couple ones that are really, really fun, and I think would be really I don't know, just be very different than what we typically do. We inject humor in everything we do. So it'd be really great to just do a straight up comedy with a little bit of action in it. And yeah, those would be really fun. So I love working with my brother. He's great.
You mentioned the asylum a few times now. I recently talked to a filmmaker named Anthony Thrift. He's got a documentary called Mockbuster that's coming out.
Yeah,
It's playing at the Sydney Film Festival, and I don't know if you heard. I'm pretty sure you've seen the trailer for it and such.
we
And
were we
for
were in
people
it.
who,
We were in
is that
it.
right? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if we got I heard we got cut out of it, but they interviewed us for about an hour or two. And
Okay.
as you can imagine, we're chatty Cathys. So I'm like, did they have anything usable? Probably not. If we got cut out, it probably had nothing usable because we just would not shut up.
The whole process of the asylum experience is really interesting. All these films that they have, they're already pre-sold, they already have a title, they already have a poster.
Yeah.
But what they need is filmmakers to do the stuff. And so you've done a bunch of stuff with them. What was
Hmm.
that first initial Asylum experience like for you? Was it kind of like just such a like a throw like a from a thrown into the fire kind of thrown into the deep end kind of thing where it's just like you got so many days to do this with so much of a budget and you're doing a version of some type of blockbuster or what have you. I mean, I imagine those initial films would have been a real learning experience for both you and John.
Yeah, I mean it was a great experience. I think I started out as an editor there, and then I worked my way up as, a writer, and then we kept pitching stuff to them and getting close but no cigar, and there was a title. They came back from one of their markets because they go to all the film markets and
Mm,
Cannes, AFM, and so on. And what they do is they go out and take out their distributors out for drinks or whatever, and they ask like, so what are you looking for? It's kind of like fast food filmmaking where it's like, okay, so what kind of movie are you are you looking for? We'll make it. So it's like made to deliver kind of thing. And so you have like one distributor saying like, well, I really want an airline disaster movie. You have another distributor saying, well, I really want a volcano um sort of disaster movie, action thriller. And uh and then they go, how about we combine both of those and we can achieve both markets, appease both markets at once. And so they literally came back from one of the markets with a title called Airplane versus Volcano. And everybody in the office got a big laugh out of it. And that was always really exciting. Like when they come back from the markets, you get a whole new schedule for the year with all the titles and the dates of like, okay, this new movie is going to be shot at this time, and this new movie is going to be, in post at this time, etc. But you see all these new titles start popping up, and you're like, what are these? What does that mean?
mm,
What's Airplane versus Volcano? What's this? What's that? What's Sharknado? Um, and it happened at the same year as Sharknado, I believe, and nobody thought that was going to be anything. But Airplane versus Volcano came about, and everybody had a lot of questions, and the bosses said, well, it's pretty much a airplane movie thriller. They can't land, and there's a volcano. Like they didn't have really anything beyond that. It was just a title and a vague idea of a movie. So they sent it out to they would send out the title and the vague concepts to all the writers. And then we were sort of added to the pool of the writers. And so everybody would try to make pitches to it. But apparently everybody was making the same pitch. And we were all trying to pitch the Flight of the Phoenix, where the plane crash lands on a volcanic island and the volcano is about to erupt, but they need to fix up the plane and take off before the volcano can erupt. And they're
mm.
like, that's great, but that's not what we're doing. The plane needs to be in air the entire movie, and there has to be a volcano. I'm like, well, why don't they just fly away? It raised so many questions and stuff. So like a lot of people were angry and stuff like that is the dumbest thing ever. There's no way. This is a scene. This isn't a movie. And so it was offered to us and we turned it down. And our bosses, you know, thankfully to them, they really gave us a shot, but they were like, look, nobody can figure this out. If you guys want to write so much, if you want a writing job, figure this one out. If you can figure this out, you can direct it. And we
Mm.
go, oh. So John and I sat down and we said to each other, okay, gun to our head. If we had to make this movie, what would we do? And so, before you know it, we're coming up with a handful of scenes and ideas and stuff, and we couldn't stop laughing at how absurd and ridiculous it was. And we both kind of looked at each other and we said, we kind of have to make this movie now because there's no way anybody else is going to make this movie that way. And we find it so funny that it's like we want to ensure it gets made in this way. And so it was almost like what started off as almost like a dare sort of became a joke that John and I really wanted to see fully realized. But not only that, we were trying to take it seriously. We're trying to take it very, be straight faced about it and everything. And sure, it's the most ridiculous and silliest thing ever. But we were really having a lot of fun, and sets were getting built. They built a whole plane set for us. There's a few cockpit sets actually, and and so on. And we were shooting on like this location for the military base. I mean, it was just so much fun. As a 24-year-old, we were 24 at the time, shooting this movie that would go on to Sci-Fi Channel and then Netflix at the time when Netflix was newly streaming movies. They were just acquiring whatever at the time. So that movie got a lot of attention because everybody was like, "What the hell is an airplane versus volcano?" So that got a lot of interesting uh, comments and stuff. But then, for good measure, we added a couple dramatic beats in it and everything, and you got characters crying, and we got a couple reviewers like saying, "Why am I crying during a movie called in a movie called Airplane versus Volcano? Like, what does that
Hmm.
say? What does that say to me as a moviegoer?" So it was such an exciting time. I really loved every minute working there. It felt like film school or something, or like the new Roger Corman sort of way of movie making. And we shot that in 15 days. And at the time, I thought 15 days was really bad. And now, from what I hear, as your buddy in Mockbuster Chronicles, and when they did, I think they did a movie in 6 days,
6 days.
which I I couldn't do that. Well, technically, we kind of did. We my last movie for them was a really, really hard one, and it was technically supposed to be 4 days. And I'm like, the guys, there's no way we can do 4 days. You can't make a movie in 4 days. It's too hard. It's too many pages. No way. And it was a fan footage movie, and it's supposed to be a sci-fi found footage movie with like a giant robot and aliens and stuff. It was just so difficult and so low budget, and it kind of broke us. It kind of broke the crew and the cast. Everybody was just like, that was the hardest thing ever, man. Like, let's not do that again. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's fair. So yeah, but they really, you know, it sounds like, I'm being silly or sarcastic, but no, I mean, they really taught us how to write a script, or how to keep the pace up, and keep delivering the goods, and keep the plot going and moving. Granted, if they probably saw Pitfall today, they probably would have been like, why is there all this character development in this movie? I could hear them in my head going, like, cut all that bullshit out. Like, you just want the thrills, you just want the action and the kills, like, cut out all this crap. And I'm like, well, if I wanted to make a straight slasher movie, it would have been different. It would have been just a
Yeah.
straight slasher movie. This was kind of a partial survival thriller and a slasher. But yeah, yeah, we I can hear them in my head going, no, you don't need this stuff. What are you doing? But it certainly has come in handy, especially on those days when you're really up against the gun, up against the wall, and up against time, shooting all night in the middle of the forest, and the sun's starting to come up, and you have minutes to get a
Mm.
scene, and you don't have time to rehearse, you don't have time to discuss, you just have to shoot.
Yeah.
And you have to shoot a very complex scene, or you have to shoot a very emotional scene, and hope to God that the actors nail it, which they usually did. And it was, I mean, Pitfall should have been like a 25, 30-day show. It was an 18-day show. So it was really, really hard. And granted, we had more money than we did starting at Asylum, but I still feel like those same problem-solving skills and traits that we had on the Asylum movies and stuff, where you're flying by the seat of your pants and just sort of jerry-rigging things together, just trying to get each shot, trying to get each scene done so you can move on. It was the same thing, just it was just bigger, it was just more stakes, and it was a bigger crew, but it felt the same in the sense of like, it's the same problems. We don't have enough time, we don't have enough money, and we got to make it work, and it has to be the best thing possible. So, you know, hopefully we succeeded. Uh, Hopefully the next one we'll have a little bit more time.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere. I want to move on to another game now called Rapid Fire Questions. Again, it's in the title. I'm going to throw questions your way.
I
Think
am
about
ready.
as best you can. Think as fast as you can. Give me an answer, and then you can expand upon it as well.
Sure.
So my first one, I think I might know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Your
I'll try to
favorite
keep it short and
Sam,
sweet for you.
your favorite Sam Raimi movie?
Sam Raimi movie. Oh, Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead
Just
2. Yeah,
it's the mother of all. It's was what do they say in the box? It's the mother of all sequels.
yep.
It's such a great movie. Yeah,
And I think also one of the great film performances of all time by Bruce Campbell in that film as well.
absolutely. An incredible physical actor, but just how far he pushes himself in that movie, and I mean, I don't think many actors would have done half the stuff he did in that. So no, he's a real national treasure.
100%. Next one. What's the scariest moment you've ever seen in a horror movie?
Oh gosh. I want to say scariest moment in a horror movie. I want to say I mean I think it's somewhere between Nightmare on Elm Street, uh Exorcist, and honestly, I mean Hereditary really messed me up as an adult. So I don't know. It's like they were all very different for different reasons. Hereditary felt like a living nightmare, but Nightmare on Elm Street certainly messed me up as a kid. I think it was I mean honestly, I think it was Tina getting pulled up the wall,
Hmm.
and I kind of equate that scene to like um the opening of Jaws where the girl is getting torn apart and everything. It's still very effective, even though it was a very low budget movie. It's still very effective today, and yeah, that really upset me. I think that's when I really discovered as a kid that movies can really turn your stomach and make you feel not well. Like it was the first time I had to stop a movie and step out of the room, get a glass of water, and put my head down, and I'm like, I don't feel good.
Hmm.
This movie's really messing with me. And but yeah, of course I finished it. So it was couldn't get enough.
I think one of mine, I mentioned before how the transformation scene of American Werewolf in London is definitely
That's a great
one of
one.
them for sure. The other one that I really absolutely love is the introduction of Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw when he just kind of opens the door and hits the guy with a mallet, and then that
Yeah,
kind of doom kind of music kind of like
yeah.
crumbling kind of comes. That's another one where I'm just like, whoa, I remember seeing that for the first time. And I was just like,
I
wow, I haven't seen anything like this before.
and that's so funny too, because like when I first saw that movie, it's it hit me like no other horror film because it was just again much like Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it was really tapping into something else that was just really unsettling, and it wasn't just
Yeah.
jump scares. Yes, there was a few that were very effective, but it just everything about it was like, get me out of here. This movie, this world that we're in, like, holy cow, it's too real, it's too creepy, it's too, I don't know, gross, and it's just something about it is just I loved it so much, but and especially like the with the visuals and the sound design and everything in that movie, it's just so fantastic and so unique. So yeah, that's a great one. I think I even saw House of a Thousand Corpses. I got a bunch of friends to see that in high school, and they were upset that I showed them that, and I'm like, it's pretty much Texas Chainsaw Massacre just on acid.
Yeah.
Um, so they're like, this is the most fucked up movie I've ever seen. I'm like, well, it's not that bad. There's some other ones that are pretty gnarly, but
Yeah.
yeah, so those are some pretty good ones.
What's your favorite horror movie kill?
Ooh, horror movie kill. Oh gosh. Um, hmm. It's a really good question. I feel like I need a timer. Um, I'm going to say horror movie kill. Um, in what respect? Like just fun or scary or how
How
like
about we
revolting
put
or
the parameters of innovation, entertainment,
yeah.
and just overall kind of just memorable kind of like a moment that kind of sticks to your head of like, wow, I never imagined someone will think of that as a kind of like a kill in a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah. just because I'm my mind is escaping, drifting a bit, but there's a bunch of kills that I really really love, from movies that I've grown up with, but hmm, there's some weird ones that are coming to mind that aren't.
Just spit them
uh
out. Just spit them out.
yeah yeah, there was a monster movie though. It was Stephen Sommers' Deep Rising, where
Right.
it was like a sea monster movie, but they see a guy that like a half gestated digested guy comes spilling out and everything. I
Yeah.
again, it was one of those things at the time. It was like the right time of like CG and makeup sort of merging, and it was the first time I ever seen something like that where somebody's just like screaming their head off and they're kind of like lobotomized or something, completely brain dead or something, but they're still alive and half
Yeah.
digested. That kind of stuck with me as a kid. But more recently, I really, really, really loved just the whole, I'm just going to say the whole climax, the whole police station sequence in Malignant, because that movie
Uh,
doesn't get enough love. And it's not a perfect movie by any means. In fact, the first half of the movie, I'm like, where is this movie going? Like, I don't understand. Like, is James Wan losing it? And then, the whole, have you seen it? Can I ruin it?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the whole, sorry viewers, but the whole twist in the end where it's revealed that, the woman has like this tumor man growing out the back of her head and takes
Mm.
control of her body, and she's, moving backwards and killing people. I've never seen anything like that before. So that was like, that legitimately blew my mind. And not only that, but somebody that's like doing this full on like choreography and flipping over tables, and it's just, it's so bonkers and so gnarly. I've never seen anything like that. But I'm sure there's a million other things that I'm not even thinking of. I'm sure there's, classics like, like you said, like I said, the opening to Jaws and everything. But innovation, oh gosh.
You know, one that that always stuck with me from when I was a kid. It's another nightmare movie, number three. The
Yeah.
one where Freddy has got the kid's veins and is like using them as a marionette,
Yeah,
and then
whereas like
takes him to the
tendons and
edge,
everything.
and then
Yeah.
like I was just like, what the hell was that? That's like something I was like, wow, that's that I never thought of anything like that before. That's kind of that's a crazy
Oh,
one.
I will give you another one that's a bit underrated because again, I don't think this movie gets nearly enough love, but there's one recently that I saw as a grown person just a few years ago, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 22, again, not a perfect movie. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but the kills, damn it, are freaking gnarly. And there's a bit where like a police officer goes to draw his weapon
Right.
and to shoot Leatherface, and Leatherface grabs his forearm and breaks his forearm, and it protrudes out of the guy's arm, and then he uses the guy's own arm to stab him in the neck. And I'm like, well, I haven't seen that before. That's pretty gnarly.
Right.
So I kind of stole from that a little bit. I have a new movie coming up that's in post right now, but there's a bit where somebody gets their arm kind of like partially cut off and broken and ripped off, and he has just the person's like forearm and a hand, and with the bone shard sticking out of the severed arm, and he stabs somebody in the face with it. So I'm like, that's just too good. I thought that was really fun. And then there's
Last
like,
one. Go ahead.
sorry, one last thing that I really
Yeah.
really love, Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, where zombies are like ripping the guy's rib cage out, and they're like pretty much doing a tug of war over his like rib cage, and the guy's like trying to pull back his own rib cage. I don't know how he's still alive, but that really stuck with me, and I love that so much. Sorry, I just had to mention
Speaking
that.
speaking of other tasty morsels, last one here. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No, I can't
Yeah,
do it. I've tried.
yeah.
I've had too many friends that love it, and they've ruined a lot of parties because somebody just had to get pineapple on the pizza. I'm a I'm a bacon and like pepperoni and bacon, and if you must, sausage and mushrooms or something. But I'm very much a meat lover's, just stop my heart from beating kind of pizza guy.
You are correct in your answer, and you actually put tip the balance of justice correctly again because the last few guests I had said yes. So I don't know what's been going on with the world lately with people saying yes to pineapple on pizza with everything. It's like that Ghostbusters monologue, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, pineapple on pizza. Can't do it.
That's it.
Sorry.
That's the cause of all problems in global warming and everything. It's because of pineapples on pizza.
We,
It's the worst. It's the
the,
absolute worst. I mean, still not as bad as like anchovies or something, but like I don't know what people are smoking. I got into a big pizza debate recently with a bunch of other friends where they were appalled that I like barbecue chicken pizza, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? That's like amazing. They're like, barbecue doesn't belong on pizza. I'm like, it's way better than pineapple.
I
But
take barbecue over pineapple any day. Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
exactly.
100%. Especially like as a like a with a like if you can have like a barbecue meat lovers like chicken as a thing you can have absolutely for sure.
Oh,
For
that's so
sure.
good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
But we were big meat eaters, so it's like that just comes natural to us. If you're really
My
gnarly, I
last
put sriracha on my pizza. That's really
which one,
gnarly.
sorry?
I said if you're really gnarly, I put sriracha on my pizza sometimes. That's really gnarly.
Oh, okay.
Little hot
Nice.
sauce. Yeah, it's really crazy.
Is that a James Kondelik special, is it?
I think some people like it's a Southern California thing. I think where some it's probably a Hispanic thing. I used to date somebody who put hot sauce on everything, but I it really rubbed off on me. I'm like, I get it. I put hot sauce on my eggs and on my pizza and a bunch of other food. It's so yummy. I make tuna fish sandwiches with sriracha and like hot mustards and all these different uh peppers and seasonings and stuff like that. Oh, so good. Good tuna sandwich. I highly recommend if it makes it a zesty, spicy tuna.
We're just going to hit the last portion here of this interview. I read a quote that you had where you said, and you said this quite a few years ago, where you said you don't have to be scared or intimidated of doing things yourselves. So you're referring to filmmaking. You don't have to be scared or intimidated. Just pretty much like the message is just do it. Make your own film. Go out there and do it. And it seems now that more than ever, the filmmakers that are creating horror, that are forging a new era of horror, they very much come from that kind of mindset, which is kind of goes back to like maybe like the 60s, 70s mindset where a lot of filmmakers had as well. Just went out with their super rates and made their own stuff. Now these kids are going out, they're making stuff on YouTube. Their things again seen on YouTube. They're making their own feature films, and the feature films are making 100 million. So like what Curry Barker's doing, Obsession, and I forgot what the director's name is from Backrooms. He went from YouTube.
Kate Parsons. Yeah.
Okay, Philippine Brothers as well. So YouTube now they're doing that kind of
Yeah.
thing as well. And they all started with just like you know what, I'm gonna just make my own movie. And I think that kind of spirit that they have there is something that you're kind of talking about in that quote. Do you think that though? How long do you think that's going to last though? How long do you think the well until the well is tapped dry of finding filmmakers through like a YouTube thing and having it come through? Because you know, while the top of the pyramid of those filmmakers like are really creative and such, not many of them are able to pull off what they're able to pull off in this movie. And I'm just afraid that it's going to be a thing where kind of like how grunge came and then all of a sudden every, band, was like just wearing kind of plaid and just started singing like Eddie Vedder,
Yeah.
how long do you think this thing's going to last for? Or do you think this is the new way now? This is like a thing where generationally, this is how horror movies specifically are going to be made now from where it used to be shorts played at festivals. Now it's things played
Yeah.
on YouTube and then picked up by A24 or Neon or something.
I mean, I think it's going to be here for a while. I feel like we kind of my generation kind of missed that bandwagon. I mean, we would post stuff online when YouTube was first coming out, but
Right.
then it was so rare that anybody would get noticed or anything on YouTube. It was kind of looked at as like public access when I was first coming up with YouTube. So it was so strange. Like we were kind of buying into the classic way of doing things of trying to get financing, working for a studio or trying to get your movie made and get into a festival and then get noticed and get distribution or whatever. But yeah, these younger folks now, no, they're learning so much about marketing, just getting feedback from the audience really quick and everything. I think it's incredibly important. I hope it's not the only criteria that producers and studios look for, where it's like, oh, well, what have you posted on YouTube? How many followers do you have? Or how many views did you get? It's like, are you a good filmmaker or aren't you? Like, are you a good
Mm,
storyteller? Can you make a good movie? I think that's what should be king. Like, quality should be king. However, I do think it's a great leveling of the playing field a bit, where it's like, well, here are these younger guys that probably wouldn't have otherwise been noticed, um, just putting their stuff out there and so on, and I think it's just important to just keep making stuff, even for yourself, or you're just showing it to people privately. Just keep making something. If you're not um happy with, if you're a creative and you're not happy with where you're at in your career, if you're a director, you're a singer, if you're writer or whatever, um if you can create stuff with your friends, do it. I mean, that kind of attitude and that kind of work is only going to beget more work like it. you know um I love the asylum, but coming up in that and everything, it's a great learning ground, and a lot of great people have come out of those that studio and have gone on to do better things. However, it's like for a long time, you really have to break free from it, because you kind of have to reinvent yourself. It's like, yeah, you got a lot of experience, but you got a lot of experience doing these kinds of movies. So
mm,
now you need to prove you can make a real movie, and you can
right.
make and tell your story. So you really just have to. Anybody that I know who is interested in directing or writing or whatever, I always ask them, how many projects do you have, or have you, like, are you developing anything? Are you pitching anything around? Well, I have a couple ideas. No, 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 no. You need to have a few scripts. You need to have, a few treatments. You have to have physical property. So once it's written, even if it's a first draft, if the concept is there on the page, it's now a property and you could sell it. So it's just, you gotta be able to push yourself and develop projects that you love, that you don't mind putting your name on. Um, that way you can really start to advertise yourself and everything. And if you can get something on YouTube, if you can get a following, great. I mean, that always helps. It's not I don't think it should be the end all be all, that it's like, oh, well, I have to build a following for 10 years, and otherwise I'm not going to get hired as a director. That shouldn't be the criteria. It's great that it happened for these guys. Um, so I don't know how long it'll last, but I do think we'll probably see that trend for a while. Um, so it's exciting. I've told many people for a while that I think getting, like, people are really starved for authenticity and
Mm,
authentic stories and new films, things that are starring actors that they probably haven't seen before over and over again. They want to see something real. They don't want to see something that is, CGI'd to hell, like a Marvel movie or something. And especially this generation, this younger generation that grew up on nothing but Marvel movies and things like that. It's like they think this is what movies are. It's like, sure, these are movies, but there are other kinds of movies. That's why I think when younger people rewatch like Die Hard or any of these, older movies. I remember showing my friends Halloween a few years back, the original Halloween, and they've never seen it. And
mm.
they go, "This is actually really good." I said, "Yes, it's
Yeah,
great."
yeah, it's
You know,
Halloween.
it's a classic horror film, but it was made very, very cheaply. But it's amazing what you can do very practically and cheaply. You don't need a lot of special effects. You don't need a lot of makeup effects or anything to build suspense. Suspense is the greatest um special effect you can have. That and a great script and great performances. That's magic. So I think quality is king. I think we're entering this sort of new 1970s era where new young talent is being discovered, and I mean, who knows where we're going, but I'm very excited to see where everybody takes us and what new movies come out and so on. I think just in May alone, there was a lot of great movies, a lot of uh, new talent and filmmakers coming out, um, debuting their movies and stuff. We have Affection that premiered at Screamfest aside from us. And you obviously had Obsession, played at Panic Fest with us as well. And then you had Back Rooms, which I still haven't seen yet, but I'm very excited to see it. Um, it's just incredible. I'm very thrilled to have Pitfall, participate in one of the busiest, craziest months in cinema history. Because what I'm being told and what I'm reading, it's like May was like the best year for movie theaters since I think 2019.
Mm.
So I think horror is saving cinema once again, like it did during the Depression. It's happening again now. I think we're going to see a whole new wave of interesting filmmakers telling interesting stories. So it's very exciting.
Well, for me, I always say that horror is the ultimate genre because it showcases every element of filmmaking in within the one movie, from
Correct.
craft to writing, editing, special effects, practical performance. Everything is encompassed in within a horror movie. And Pitfall, I think, exemplifies a lot of that as well. It's an incredibly innovative movie for the genre that it's in. I do believe that. And like I said at the start of our conversation, the psychological drama elements of the film that brings the root of the humanity to these people. It
Yeah.
isn't just like, oh, Stacy slept with Ted and now they're both dead and who cares? You're throwaway characters. There's no throwaway characters here. You're with this journey with these people, right? And I think that's like
Yeah.
something you did really well here. And I dare
Thank
to
you.
say, I apologize if any offense towards any of yourself or any former cast and crew that you had. It kind of feels like that Asylum and stuff is kind of like your film school that led up now to what is Pitfall. Pitfall to me kind of feels like the voice of James Kondelik, where
Thank you.
Asylum is like you have to transition to the voice of what they want to do. This is your voice coming to the fore and making what it is. And I think it's a really great example of just like how doing the hard yards and making it work and then bringing out your own thing, which you've done with Pitfall, is a success overall, I think, on your part
Thank
and
you.
your cast and crew. And for everyone out there, if you haven't seen Pitfall, it is playing across the US. Go to pitfall-movie.com. I'll have the links and everything in the show notes, and you can check out your territories. I've really got a really cool kind of site map on there where you can click on your state, click on your city. It will show you where it's playing. And if it's not playing, you talk to your cinema and you ask them to play it because we need to have these independent movies in cinemas so people can watch them. This is how you beat the
Absolutely.
evil empire, people. Do you have to have the movies that are made from filmmakers just like James and people like him? Get those indie films out there. People craving originality to say there's nothing. It's there. It's out there. Put it in the cinema, watch it, talk about it, embrace it, and enjoy it. And James Kondelik, thank you for your time
Thank
today.
you. No,
It's
I
been a
appreciate it.
journey.
Thank you.
It's been a journey today, my friend. But thank you so very much
It's
for
been
your
a long
time.
one,
And
but we made it. We
we
made it.
made it
Thank
at
you for
the end,
having me.
buddy. We're here. Look at us. We're here.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This was fun.